One day, little Johnny's grandmother sent him to the water hole to get some water for cooking dinner. As he was dipping the bucket in, he saw two big eyes looking back at him. He dropped the bucket and ran back to Grandma's house as fast as he could. "Where's my bucket and my water?" she asked. "I can't get any water from that water hole. There's a mean alligator down there." "Now don't you mind that alligator, Johnny. He's been there for years, and he's never hurt no one." "Why, he's probably as scared of you as you are of him." "Well, Grandma," replied Johnny, "if he's as scared of me as I am of him, then that water ain't fit to drink."
A college math professor and his wife are both 60 years old. One evening the wife comes home and finds a note from her husband. It says, "My dear, now that you are 60 years old, there are some things you no longer do for me. I am at the Holiday Inn with my 20-year-old student. Don't bother waiting up for me." He returns home late that night to find a note from his wife. "You, my dear, are also 60 years old, and there are also things I need that you're not giving me. So, I am at the Motel 6 with one of your 20-year-old students. Being a math professor, I'm sure you know that 20 go into 60 weighs more than 60 goes into 20. So, don't you wait up for me."
A college freshman decided to try out for the football team. "Can you tackle?" asked the coach. "Watch this," said the freshman, who proceeded to run smack into a telephone pole, shattering it to splinters. "Wow," said the coach. "I'm impressed. Can you run?" "Of course I can run," said the freshman. He was off like a shot, and, in just over 9 seconds he had run a 100-yard dash. "Great!" enthused the coach. "But can you pass a football?" The freshman hesitated for a few seconds. "Well, sir," he said, "if I can swallow it, I can probably pass it."
A blonde man and his pregnant wife are at home when she begins having contractions. He calls the doctor and shouts frantically, "My wife is having contractions, and they are 2 minutes apart." The doctor replies, "Is this her first child?" The blonde man replies, "No, this is her husband."
A college business professor could not help but notice that one of his students was late to class for the 3rd time that week. Before class ended, he went around the room asking students some questions about the day's lecture. Of course, he made sure to pick on his tardy pupil. "And who was it that developed the theories behind communism?" the professor asked. "I don't know," the student said. "Perhaps if you came to class on time, Mr. Reeves, you would know," said the professor. "That's not true," the student replied. "I never pay attention anyway."
At a state dinner, dozens of high-ranking officials have died. After eating a mushroom cream soup, generals started falling to the floor left and right. The investigation is quick. The official cause is mushroom poisoning. Members of the press are invited to the scene of the tragedy. As you can see by the foaming and throat scratching, it is clear that some poisonous mushrooms accidentally made it into the soup, says one official. One brave reporter points out that 2 of the generals seem to have gunshot wounds to the head. "What happened here?" he asked. "Well, these 2 wouldn't eat their soup."
An old man on crowded bus has trouble finding a seat. The bus careened down the avenue, shaking the passengers from left to right, and the old man, unable to support himself properly with his cane, fell to the floor. Little Johnny, sitting nearby, looked down at him and said, "If you put a little rubber cap on the end of your cane, you wouldn't fall like that." The old man looked up and replied, "If your daddy had done the same, I would have a place to sit on this stupid bus."
The teacher asks little Johnny if he knows his numbers. "Yes," he says. "My daddy taught me." "Can you tell me what comes after 3? 4, answers little Johnny. "What comes after 6? 7, answers little Johnny. "Very good," says the teacher. "Your father did a very fine job." "What comes after 10? "A jack," answers little Johnny.
The teacher asked little Johnny, "What's 2 and 2? He counted 1-2-3-4 on his fingers and said, 4, teacher? She said, yes, that's right, but you counted on your fingers. Put your hands behind your back and tell me what's 3 and 3 inch. He put his hands behind his back, fumbled around, and answered, 6, teacher? She said, yes, that's right, but you're still counting on your fingers. Put your hands in your pockets and tell me what's 5 and 5 inch. He put his hands in his pockets, fumbled around, and replied, 11, teacher? A guy walks into a pub and sees a sign hanging over the bar which reads, cheese sandwich, $1.50. Chicken sandwich, $2.50. Hand job, $10. Checking his wallet for the necessary payment, he walks up to the bar and beckons to one of the 3 exceptionally attractive blondes serving drinks to an eager-looking group of men. Yes? She inquires with a knowing smile. Can I help you? I was wondering, whispers the man. Are you the one who gives the hand jobs? Yes, she purrs. I am. The man replies. Well, go wash your hands. I want a cheese sandwich.
A couple of hunters are out in the woods when one of them falls to the ground. He doesn't seem to be breathing, his eyes are rolled back in his head. The other guy whips out his cell phone and calls the emergency services. He gasps to the operator, my friend is dead. What can I do? The operator, in a calm, soothing voice says, just take it easy. I can help. First, let's make sure he's dead. There is a silence, then a shot is heard. The guy's voice comes back on the line. He says, okay, now what?
Little Johnny walks a cow through the village square. The mayor sees him and asks, Hey Johnny, where are you going with the cow? I'm taking her to the bulls so she would get impregnated, answers Johnny. The mayor is shocked. Surely your father had better be doing that. Little Johnny thinks about it for a bit and shakes his head. Nah, I think it's really best left with the bulls.
Little Johnny was in class and the teacher said, what we are going to do today, class, is, I am going to give you a letter and I want someone to raise their hand, and if I call on you I want you to give me a word that begins with that letter. So the teacher says A, and little Johnny immediately raises his hand, but the teacher knows he will say, so she calls on little Mary and she says apple. Very good, the teacher replied. Okay, how about the letter B? Little Johnny once again immediately raises his hand and says, please pick me. So the teacher thinks for a moment and inside her head knows he'll say or bastard, so she skips over little Johnny and calls on little Brad, and little Brad replies, boat. Very good, Brad, the teacher says. Now how about C, the teacher asks. Immediately little Johnny's eyes light up and this time says, oh, pick me, no one. The teacher instantly goes right to little Bobby and he says, car. That's a good one, Bobby. So the teacher does the same thing with the letter D and ignores little Johnny raising his hand. Now the teacher says, you're all doing a great job, class. How about E? This time little Johnny stands up waving his arms begging for a chance. So the teacher pauses for a solid 10 to 15 seconds and can't think of one bad word that begins with the letter E. So she reluctantly calls on little Johnny, and little Johnny very nicely and calmly says elephant.
When the office printer color started to look a little off, the manager called the local repair shop. To the manager's surprise, the clerk said that it would cost $50 but that he might try reading the manual and doing it himself. The manager replied in astonishment, Does your boss know that you discourage business that way? Yes, replied the clerk. It was his idea. We make more on repairs than cleaning printers if the owner tries to do it himself first. 2 programmers after work, talking in a pub. You will never believe me when I tell you what happened to me yesterday. I met a very nice blonde in a bar. And what did you do? I invited her to my place, we had some drinks, and then the girl asked me to undress her. Are you kidding me? And what did you do then? I got her dress off, and then I got her to sit on my office, right next to my new laptop. Oh, you got a new laptop. What model and what are its specifications? A lawyer has just settled down in his new office. So now, he is thinking what he can do to have clients. After a long time thinking, a man comes into the office. Right away, the lawyer decides to make his new plan take action. So he picks up the phone and says, "Unfortunately, Ms. Onassis, I cannot undertake your case right now. I am working full-time, call me in a month to see if I can help you." He puts the phone down and says to the waiting man, "How can I help you, sir?" "Nothing really, I am from Telephone Communications, I just came to connect your phone."
A lady goes to the doctor to see about getting a facelift. "Well," says the doctor, "I can do the facelift, and then you'll have to come back in 6 months for a follow-up." "Oh, no," the woman replies. "I want it all done in one shot. I don't want to have to come back." The doctor thinks for a second, then offers, "There is a new procedure where we put a screw in the top of your head. Then anytime you see wrinkles appearing, you just give it a little turn, which pulls the skin up and they disappear." "That's what I want," exclaims the lady. "Let's do that." 6 months later, the lady charges into the doctor's office. "Well, how's the procedure holding up?" the doctor asks. "Terrible," the lady bellows. "It's the worst mistake I've ever made." "What's wrong?" asks the doctor. "Just look at these bags under my eyes," she hollers. "Lady," the doctor reports, "those aren't bags, those are your ass. And if you don't leave that screw alone, you're going to have a beard." Hey there, I put a lot effort into making these videos, so please subscribe for more jokes and stay happy, thank you.